Aylett, 1L, 2 T's in Aylett, benaylett.com. Also identified by his Hawaiian shirt in the studio live. Good evening.
Good evening, Chris. How are you going?
Doing all right. What's news in your world, in the technical world?
Well, what's in the technical world? We've got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's because I'm involved heavily with Red Piranha now, there's lots and lots of stuff about cyber security that we're covering. There are lots of exciting developments as well. So, the big deal at the moment is sovereign security and sovereign data. So a lot of Australian companies and government as well, they're looking a lot harder about where their security is coming from and where their information is being stored. And a big tick in the box is making sure that Australian data is kept within Australia.
Yes.
Because people are having a hard time trusting other companies with all the sort of turmoil that's going on around in the world. Everyone's saying, look, we'd rather trust our own than have to try and trust someone else's. So that's a really big push.
Why has it taken us so long to realise that? I mean, really, when you think about it, we're having kind of an obvious conversation here, aren't we? So why has it taken us so long to realise that actually we're having the obvious conversation because it's really obvious?
I think because previously we either really trusted what was going on, like, we had those big names that we trusted, your Amazon and your Microsoft and all the other ones, and it was just easy. But now we've had to stop and think and have a really tough conversation about what we're actually doing with our information and how we're looking after it and how the businesses that are looking after it are behaving with that information as well. So thankfully, the questions are being asked. And
the reason why a lot of this stuff is mishandled by businesses is because so many people responsible for handling it don't know the technology that they're handling. They don't realise they still have a mindset of, like you're handling a bunch of papers that you store in the corner, lock away in a filing cabinet, and it's safe. It's not like that anymore.
No.
There's a whole raft of areas, a whole raft of ways that people could obtain your information.
Exactly.
And the people who are responsible for that are still in the process of learning. People like yourself have understood it for a long time. But to be fair, people like yourself haven't been listened to. You have said it. You have been talking about it. It's not as though you've been silent, but nobody's been listening.
Only just in the last couple of weeks, there's been more and more talk about, wait for it, passphrases instead of passwords. So, there's a lot of people.
But then you'd still end up with people doing stuff like the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, which would be an obvious one.
It would be an obvious one. And the trick is that a lot of computer systems these days, they're powerful enough to try 100 million passwords per second. It's not hard for them to run through basically every permutation.
I've always thought that the random alphanumerics and symbols seem to work better, mainly because the number of combinations potentially is infinite. Can they be cracked? Yes, I understand they can be, but they're much harder. Let's put it this way. If you have a complicated password, what you're doing is you're saying to the hackers, we're not going to make your life easier. And they're going to go, what we'll do is we'll go and pick on the person who's got his wife's name backwards.
Yes. Yeah, and so they do. They go for the low-hanging fruit, which is always the common way, and that's how people get caught out, really.
They do. Yep. By the way, if you'd like to have a chat to Ben, he's here and always willing to chat. Very chatty fellow, actually. 922 11882. So if you're looking at a piece of technology, you want to know something about it, or at the moment you're thinking of, I can kill you. Well, you don't, because you are financially going to regret it. Have a chat to Ben. Believe me, it'll feel really good when you take to the computer violently, but in the end you'll think to yourself, geez, that felt good, but now the bank balance is not going to feel good.
Oh, bugger. Yeah.
G'day, Jeff.
Yeah, greetings, team. Thanks for the opportunity.
Pleasure.
So how secure is Dropbox or anyone else of a similar ilk then?
Okay. Dropbox, like any other cloud-based storage service, is only as safe as you make it. So it's, let's see, so don't reuse passwords. That's an obvious way for people to get things owned. Be very careful with what you do on your actual computer, because when you fall to a phishing email, it could be a phishing email trying to get access to Dropbox or another service, which could then link back to Dropbox itself. Is there a particular scenario that you're thinking of, mate?
Jeff wants to use
I
Dropbox.
was also thinking of your references to security of servers. So how secure are their servers as well then?
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, Dropbox, I probably wouldn't rate Dropbox as highly as Microsoft, for example. But, you know, it's still pretty secure. It's more secure than some of the other peer-to-peer file sharing, like the cloud services out there. I'd say it's in the top 5.
Okay.
But when you're storing
You're not
information...
convincing me that Jeff should really go down the path, though, Ben. I'm detecting massive reservations from your person.
I'm just not sure what sort of information Jeff is interested in storing on Dropbox.
So small business applications. I work off site for a client, and they're using Dropbox. They're going down that path increasingly. And I thought, I'll just ask the question.
Yeah,
saying that Microsoft might be a bit more secure, and I was just curious in relation to your references, as we all need to be aware of, the security of servers, whether they're in Turkmenistan or a server in Canberra.
Yeah, okay. Right, so what sort of information are they storing on Dropbox? So this is where we start getting into risk profiles.
So the question relates, Jeff, how confidential is the information that is being shared with you?
No, it's fairly reasonably confidential. It's business spreadsheeting and things like that.
Okay.
You've also got your MyObs and your QuickBooks of the world who and my own tax accounting software that want people to move to a cloud-based solutions as well.
Okay, now we're talking about something different, but we'll go back to the Dropbox and the storing of information. So there are things that I absolutely will not store on cloud services, and especially the likes of Dropbox. So that's medical records, financial, like sensitive financial information, intellectual property, just that really high-value stuff that if you lose the control of, life gets very, very difficult. For like things like quotes and all this sort of stuff that you won't really be too concerned if it does get out. That stuff is fine. But I would recommend, if you've got anything that is sensitive or potentially damaging information, yes, you can use a cloud-based service. Probably go for one of the more secure ones, which you can secure with 2-factor authentication. Before you upload it to any cloud service, have a think about encrypting it before it gets up there.
Okay, which you can do with Excel and things. So who are the others apart from Microsoft then, please, mate?
Microsoft, you've also got Amazon, but you've got to be careful because Amazon has to be configured correctly to work right. Google Drive, I know a lot of people like to sort of take a punt at Google because Google it's the all-knowing search service that freaks people out. They have actually got a pretty good attitude when it comes to security and making things simple and secure. So I would probably put Google on the same footing as Microsoft Office 365.
Okay, very good. Thanks for your advice.
No worries, mate, anytime. And look, just about the online accounting services, there's really not a great deal we can do. If you want to use Xero or MyOb, you kind of have to use their service. There's not really an offline version, but to their credit, they do understand the importance of the information they're keeping, and they do take the right